Hi, my name is Tom Morgan. I'm a developer and Microsoft MVP. I normally do a weekly update where I talk about the things that have changed and are new and interesting for developers in the Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams space. This week I'm going to do something different. You might have noticed I'm in my garage. Why am I in my garage? Well, this week I want to talk about 4 key tips for developers using Microsoft Teams, and I want to show you those tips with things from my garage.
Everything goes into Teams. Everything goes into Teams.
Okay, so the first tip is everything goes in Teams. All right, so regardless of what it is, it's not just conversations. Think of Teams as a good place to stick stuff if you're not sure where else to put it. Now, obviously, you've got your code repositories, your TFS or your Git or whatever else it is, and obviously, code stays there. That's still a good place for putting code. And you might already have a support tracking system, and you should definitely keep that up to date as well. I'm talking about all the other little things, the things that get lost. So the write-ups of like bug incidents and that get distributed around your team and then just sort of get forgotten about. Or the conversations and the trading of information, the sending of these little files. Oh, here's a config file, try that. Maybe it's this deployment file, try changing this on line 17. All that kind of stuff is really important, but you don't think about it at the time. And you just sort of do it in the moment, and then it disappears and you forget about it. That stuff is really important, and if you can track it and keep it in Teams, it will really help you. So here's my analogy. So this is my garage. Everything goes in the garage. If it doesn't go in the house, if I'm not sure what to do with it, it goes in the garage. And I know it looks like a bit of a mess, but I kind of know where everything is. And everything goes in the garage because you never really know when you might need it again. So I've got stuff in here, and it always comes out being useful. So I always try and, I know that makes me a bit of a hoarder, but I try and keep everything in the garage because you never know when it might come in handy. That's the same kind of thing with Teams. Put it in Teams. You never know when it might come in handy.
Did you ever feel so bad inside?
Okay, so my second tip is to look after your teams. So if you look down the left-hand side of your Teams client, you'll see all the teams that you're a member of. Now, you will drop in and out of Teams as your involvement in those projects kind of comes and goes. It's a really good idea to have different teams or different channels for different projects that are happening. And that can be really granular. So let's say you work on a particular product. You might have one channel for the current kind of thing that is being developed right now. So like vNext, but you might also have a channel for kind of bugs and things that are happening in the current version. You might have a channel for an archive, like an older version that a couple of clients are still on, and then you might have another channel for the really futuristic stuff you're still talking about. And your involvement in those channels will change over time. So if you had a channel devoted to, let's say version 2, you might be really involved in version 2 whilst it's being built, but once it goes through QA and it gets released to the customer, you probably care quite a bit less about version 2, right? You're much more interested in version 3. So being able to kind of keep track of the channels, know the channels that you care about and the ones that you don't. And that extends out to teams as well. Like, know the teams that you care about and the ones that you care a little bit about. And use the favorite feature, which is one of the favorite things I've found in Teams for keeping track of the different teams and channels that you're a member of. Favorite the things that you really care about. The other stuff will disappear below those favorite lists, and you can always get to it. It's just otherwise, when you come in the morning, it's kind of overwhelming to have this massive great list. Okay, so I would say curate your teams, look after them, prune them, get it down to like a decent number by using favorites. That way you can immediately come in and see the things that are really important. Okay, so I'm going to show you some stuff from my garage which kind of highlights what I'm talking about. So come with me. So like I say, I put everything into this garage if I'm not really sure what it's going to be used for. And then slowly stuff kind of finds its home and finds its place, which is a bit like, in Teams. Stick it in Teams, slowly everything finds its place in the right team and the right channel. So here's a really good example. So down here, I put loads of stuff in boxes, right? So if I'm going to do some painting and decorating, this is my painting and decorating box, right? And you can see everything I need to do painting and decorating is right here. I can pull this box out and we're good to go. So if I come up here, I have another box, right? This box is my, we're going outside. This is like a summer in the garden, kind of maybe barbecuing a little bit. So this is my box for that. And everything I need is, I can just grab that box and walk out with it. Like I've got foil in here, we've got the gloves, there's a frisbee, there's a load of barbecue tools, some kind of chef's apron. It's all the outdoor stuff, so I can just grab that. I'm not hunting through the whole garage for stuff. This is kind of like my channel for going outside, right? I'll grab that and go, and I know I've got everything I need. Now, downstairs, down here, you could call it my favourites, if you like. This is stuff I use like loads. So, got the tools, some other bits and pieces. It's a bit of a mess, but you know, I kind of know where everything is. But then up there, that's the kind of like all the other stuff. So if we go up here, okay, up here is the stuff like I hardly ever use. But you know, it does sometimes come handy. So we've got like the carpet cleaner and like weird stuff like that, you know, wallpaper stripper, stuff that you hardly ever use. But so you don't keep it downstairs, it's not in favourites, it's all the other stuff, right? And there's a little sneak preview of like everyone's got to be geeky, right? So that's the network. I might do another video about this network kit one day, I think. Don't worry about missing things in teams that you haven't favorited and that you're not looking at every day. Okay, don't use that as a reason to favorite something. If you don't think you're going to be that interested in it and you don't think you're going to be day-to-day involved in it, unfavorite it. Don't worry about things happening that involve you or that you should care about, because that's where my next tip comes in. Okay, my third tip is the activity feed. The activity feed is your friend, okay? Learn to love the activity feed. Anything that happens in teams that you should care about will show up in your activity feed. And it's not just where you get mentioned. That's a really good one though. It's where you get mentioned, where your team might get mentioned. It's where people reply to threads that you've started or you've been involved in, even meetings that you should be in. I get activity feed entries and I go and look at it. And it's a meeting I should have been in, a Microsoft Teams meeting. So the activity feed is telling me, hey, there's a meeting that's just started, you were invited to it and you accepted it, and it's happening now, you should probably be in it. So live by the activity feed. If you do that, you will always seem responsive. People will always think you're on top of whatever it is they're worried about, but you won't have to constantly be polling all these different teams and channels trying to work out what's going on. The activity feed is one of the greatest features in Teams for me, and yeah, make it your friend. Now, I'm not about to tell you that my garage has an activity feed. That would be pretty crazy. The closest thing I've got to an activity feed, which is kind of true, is down here. Now, near where you come in, right? So this is the garage door, this is where you come in. And then here on this shelf, these are all the householdy things, okay? And it's where I keep all the stuff that we need to reorder. So you've got like the fabric softener, like the bleach, the cleaning stuff, some bits and pieces of like, you know, drink and all that kind of stuff. And that all lives like here. And the reason for that is that every time I come to the garage, I can glance at that, and if I can see kind of really quickly if we're getting low on important stuff, and I can reorder it. So there is kind of a little bit of method in that madness. So it is kind of a bit like an activity feed. Annoyingly, it doesn't flash at me, it doesn't tell me, hey, you need to reorder kind of more bleach. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's why it's at the front of the garage. It's so that I can see it every single time I go in. My final tip is, don't think of Teams as just a Skype for Business replacement or an IM replacement. It's so much more than that. Look along the tabs across the top. So you've got the conversation, but you've also got files and notes. And if you come back to my first point about putting everything in Teams, those are really good places to start doing that. Build out the OneNote with little information that you want to persist, the files for stuff that is relevant to the stuff you're working on, but then also go looking in the store, because there's loads of really cool apps that are being built at the moment that will really help you. For instance, there's a VSTS app. Okay, so you can bring in VSTS information as a tab alongside the conversations you're having about that project. You can bring in Trello stuff, you can bring in Power BI stuff. There's loads of third-party ways to bring additional information into Teams so you can have that conversation, and all the information you need is in one place, which is really useful as a developer. If you're flipping around different projects and you suddenly have to jump in and troubleshoot a particular problem, it's really, really helpful to have all the information you need right in front of you. You're not going off to loads of different applications to try and kind of suss out the information you need just to kind of get up to speed and get an understanding of what's going on. All right, those are my 4 key tips for developers using Microsoft Teams. I hope they've been useful. Like I say, I normally do a weekly video for developers in this kind of slot. So if that's interesting, check it out on YouTube. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Tom Morgan, that's TOMORGAN, or go and look at my blog at thoughtstuff.co.uk. Thanks for watching.